What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm John. This is Adam, and we're going to be talking about how the Holy Trinity might be coming back, and that's a big deal.
Might be coming back.
Might. But at this point, though, I mean, is there really going to be just the Trinity? I mean, there's so many crazy cars out there now.
There are, but we gotta start with the Trinity, right? We gotta start with the Holy Trinity. So let's rewind a little bit, right? One of our last episodes, we talked about the trio, right? The James, Richard, and Jeremy.
Yeah.
And how they worked for so long to get the Holy Trinity. And that was the first episode of Grand Tour, right? So we had the 918 Spider.
Yep.
We had the McLaren P1, and we had the LaFerrari, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, for context, all those cars originally listed under $1 million. All those cars are over $1 million right now, right?
Correct. Yeah. And that's one of the other things too that's kind of crazy, because all the cars that will be the replacement of the original, because at the time though, there wasn't $1 million cars when these came out. That was still a new thing. Bugatti was probably the only one that really truly teed it off and said, we can make a car over $1 million. There's a market for it. We can do this. And then the Holy Trinity was basically, everything was starting. I want to say the 918 was $918,000. Is that right?
No, I think it was actually less than that.
Yeah. But I think that kind of paved the way though. And then it was like the P1 was 8 and some change.
Yep.
And then the LaFerrari was the only one that was creeping more closer to $1 million.
I think it was $1 million. Yeah.
Yeah, it was $1 million. And so, at the time, these cars were not anything close to what's on the market.
No, they were so
ahead of their time.
I mean, that's a good point. They were so far apart from anything that we'd seen at that point, right?
Yeah.
I mean, each one of them, when they drove the car, when James drove it, when Richard drove it, when Jeremy drove it, Jeremy drove the P1, Richard drove the 918, and they were all saying, this is the most incredible car I've ever driven. It is nothing like anything that I've seen. It's nothing like anything that I've driven before. Now, here's the thing. To me, and comment below. To me, what made them the Holy Hypercar Trinity was every single one of those was some sort of hybrid drive system.
Right.
So it either had a plug-in hybrid system that you could run on electric only, and it used electrical power to close the performance gap and help launch it off the line and really kind of eliminate any of that turbo lag. Or like the LaFerrari, it used a Kerr system, like in the F1 cars, to be able to recover unused energy and reuse that energy back into the motor.
Right. So have regenerative braking and things like that. Yeah. Also, these cars had a crazy set of aero skills that cars before that were close, but I don't think we're ever on that level.
No, absolutely unbelievable. One of the coolest things I ever saw was the way the back spoiler on the Ferrari
P1?
moved. No, on the Ferrari. Yeah. It kind of slid out, right?
Yeah.
And then the front actually moved as well, right? The P1 had that spoiler that came up and then flattened out for DRS.
Yeah.
Remember that?
The cool thing too was also that the design of the spoiler was like a scoop.
It was.
Then like you said, it would just roll to a flat to give you more to give you less drag. And still maintain downforce, which, I mean, dude, these cars, when they came out, it was like holy craziness, but with that came something a lot of people don't talk about is the maintenance bill that probably came with some of these cars.
But I mean, we joke about it all the time. I mean, if you're into these types of cars, you're into that type of maintenance, right?
Correct.
So
you're signing up for some big paychecks for that dealership, man. I mean, tires alone were special. They were very bespoke. Suspension parts are bespoke, but that's the type of thing. I mean, these people that are buying these cars, I think one of the Apex is a great documentary to kind of get you into it and understand what they were in the three cars. And then Koenigsegg came in and was trying to do the 1-to-1 at that time. And you just had this start of a hypercar thing, and that name hadn't been dubbed before that. I mean, you had supercars. Supercar was the top tier, and then now there's a new top tier that's hypercar. And what's going to come after that? Is it ultra hypercar? I mean, what do we have? I mean, it's pretty crazy to think.
I don't know, honestly. And to be, to be in this time when we're seeing these cars and we're seeing them kind of evolve and get faster and faster and crazier and crazier, and the technology just get crazier. It's a really interesting time to be a car guy. And I will tell you,
it's exciting.
2024, I can't remember another year where we've had so many massive drops as far as like big cars that have come out, right? But we talked about early on the channel, my dream car, my unicorn, if you will, and I finally saw it last year and I saw it again this year, was the McLaren McLaren F1. Right?
Yeah.
And the F1 to me was a departure from everything that we'd ever seen. You had a center driving position, you had 3 seats, you had the McLaren doors, you had gold in the engine to keep down on heat. You had just an unbelievable setup. And for a long
it's just
time,
an alien on the road, though. I mean, you see that it's something totally out of the norm.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, this thing is just so crazy. And at the time of the F1, the cars that were out then like are relics, in today's world. And that car's still somewhat relevant. You know what I mean?
But I mean, for a long time, that F1 was like the fastest thing out there. I mean, by a lot. It wasn't, I remember there's one video or one episode of Top Gear where they're racing the P1, the F1 and the Bugatti Veyron.
Yeah.
And the F1 had it like almost all the way. It was like almost a half mile before the Bugatti just passed him.
But when you watch that, though, you think, man, the dude in the Bugatti's got his air conditioning on and he's listening to jazz music. You know what I mean? Like the guy in the McLaren's over there, like he feels every single pebble coming off of the highway.
I mean, I hate to say it, but I kind of feel like that now in the current McLaren. But I mean, okay, so we've danced around this long enough. I know everybody's kind of waiting. They saw the title of the video. They know what's going on, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so McLaren has said that the 1 badge is a special badge and only goes to specific cars. So you had the F1 and then the P1.
That's right.
And then now they built a car special enough to carry the 1 badge, and they're calling it the W1. Right?
W1's out.
The W1 is out. And so John and I were actually together at Festival of Speed. For those of you who haven't watched the video yet, it's not a long video. It's like 12 or 13, 14 minutes.
Check it out.
It's a great video. If you guys don't already know, you get to hear John's history about his Aston Martin and how he got it and kind of the history behind it. But John and I were sitting together when when it came out, when the hype video came out, right?
That's right.
Okay. John, first impressions. What did you think of the car? First impressions, what did you think of it?
So first impressions, all I saw was the pictures, didn't know the tech side of it, didn't know the performance numbers or any of that. I just saw the pictures. And I'll say from a look standpoint, I think in person, it's going to be a lot crazier than it looks in pictures.
Okay.
I think that the pictures that we saw kind of they nod some other brands, I would say. I think you felt the same way about that.
I told you as soon as it dropped, the first thing I saw was Rimac.
Right. And I get that. But at the same time, I kind of see some of the stuff where the Artura, the McLaren Atura is kind of shining through. I see the design philosophy kind of falling that direction from the P1, which was more curvy, more, I think, just sexy. I mean, it's a sexy car.
So, what's really funny is we saw some spy videos or some spy stuff of what we thought was the W1.
Yeah.
And I swear they were like rope-a-doping us because
Yeah.
the spy shots that you shared with me, that I shared with you,
Right.
was definitely of the P1 in camo, right?
Right.
Because I remember telling a friend of mine, I was like, "Hey, man, I think this new W1 is going to look a lot like the P1, you know?" And he's
Right.
like, "Oh, if it does, I'm not interested," you know? And I was like, "Well, you know, from what we've seen, it kind of looks like it is."
Yeah.
Obviously, it looks nothing like that. And when I first saw
No.
it, the front end shares the design language of the Rimac. It definitely
Yeah.
does. I've had multiple people say that to me now.
Right.
The side profile has a little bit of Senna in it. It's got
Yeah.
a little bit of even you and I were looking at the McLaren GT this weekend.
That's right.
It's got a little bit of McLaren GT in it.
Yeah.
And then you make your way around to the back,
And
and
that's aggressive.
you've got that really interesting spoiler. So I
Yeah.
am a fan. I'm a
Yeah.
fan. I think it's really cool. I think it's cool that it not only comes out, but it like rolls out and kind of flattens out and then goes up.
Yeah.
I've talked to a few people who hate it because when they say once it comes out, the rear end looks unfinished. And then I've heard some people that said they didn't like the exhaust either.
You know, it's funny. I'll say this about McLaren. They're really good about coming out with something that when you first see it, you're like, wow, oh, I don't know about that. Like the 720 when it came out, I was like,
Oh,
the
really?
headlights just not being headlights. It's just
Ooh.
different. And then when I saw it in person, and it's like, oh, there it is. And then the Senna was the same thing. It was like kind of like it was, to me, a lot of people like the P1 to me was a beautiful car.
Yeah,
And then
beautiful car.
the car that
One of my
followed it
favorites.
when they went into the base model cars and they come out with the 650S with the same kind of headlights. I mean, I think they're the same headlight. I was like, oh my God, that's great. Those are beautiful cars that will eventually be obtainable. And then, we got into the more like as they've gotten to the Atura, I'm not a huge fan of the look of the Atura personally.
Right.
Versus like the 600 LT or the 675 LT or anything like that. So now the design language is changing more towards the Artura, and I don't know that I hate it. I don't hate it, but I want to see
Right.
it in person before I make that final like, oh yeah, it's excellent, cool, and I'm sure I'm going to love it. It's one of those cars that, when I actually see it in person, I think I'm going to be like, well, alrighty then, alrighty then.
So here's the things I don't like about the car, right? I don't like that we lost the headlights, the headlight that
Right.
has the
The
McLaren
McLaren
logo,
look to it,
right?
yeah,
You've just
absolutely,
got this like line. And
yeah,
I've seen that on other cars, and
yeah,
it's not that I don't
I
love it
agree,
on other cars, but one of the reasons I like the 600 LT and the P1 is it's got that little
yeah,
McLaren logo headlight. So I don't like that.
right,
I don't like the steering wheel in the car because
you're right,
it's like a flat
square.
oval
Yeah,
almost.
the square stuff.
Yeah.
It's kinda
I'm
like
not
the C8, nobody likes the steering wheel in it,
I'm not a
doesn't
fan of
bother
the
me,
steering wheel. And
doesn't bother
then
me.
and I'm sure there's going to be other colors and stuff, but the
Right.
launch color for the interior looks like it ran through a mud puddle, and it has mud
It just
splatter all up the
sprayed it,
seat.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I'm not impressed with that. Now, how do you feel about the doors not being McLaren doors and being gull-wing doors?
I'm not a fan, that's what McLaren's known as, that's the
I
thing,
get
it's
that, but
tough,
I'm with you. So I'm with you to the fact that I think McLaren's doors are special and unique,
yeah,
but I thought it looked cool with the
it's
doors up. I
it's
love
cool,
the
it's
SL.
cool.
The SL Mercedes is probably one of my favorite vehicles of all time. And I had an SL 300 Mercedes picture on my wall when I was a kid
Okay.
with the doors up. I love a gull wing door.
Ah,
Maybe not on this car, but I love a gull wing door. I don't
I
care.
feel
It's
like at
awesome.
this point, there's too many cars on the market with that door.
What? Who else has a door?
Aston Martin just brought out the Valkyrie. Guess what it's got? Gull-wing
Yeah, but that's
doors. Hold
that.
on,
I
wait,
don't
I'm
think
not
that can. I don't
finished.
think
I'm
that
not
counts.
finished. The Tesla Model X.
No, those aren't gull wings. Those are
Oh,
Falcon
whatever.
doors.
Same, but different.
No, they go
Yeah.
up and out. Those are Falcon doors,
But when they're open, they're whatever, right?
and then
It's
they can flap when they're up.
oh my God.
I'm not with you.
My Tesla fan over here. No, man, like
In
I just
celebration mode, man.
okay. Look, it's cool. Yeah, I'm not a hater of it. But again, it's not in my price range, so I guess there's that. You know?
So before we get to price,
Yeah,
so let's talk about the impressive stuff, right? So one of the weird things is this is gonna sound so crazy. One of the weird things is the internal combustion motor, right?
right.
Only produces 900 and change horsepower. Doesn't even break 1,000,
Wow.
right?
Come on, guys. Wow.
So that's the gripe.
Yeah,
But with the electrical engine in there, it
right.
creates 1,275 horsepower. Now, one of the things that we've seen in McLaren in general is they basically been using the same engine under different degrees of tune, if you will,
Right.
right? So the
Yeah,
720 and the 600 engine are similar, but they're under different degrees of tune.
right.
The
Exactly.
675 engine is the closest engine to the P1 because it shares some of the titanium internals that the P1 has, right?
Right.
So this engine, according to McLaren, is a ground up build and it's
Right.
a first of its kind, right? And then if you look at how it marries the electrical engine, right? It's a whole new setup that they haven't done before and we haven't seen before, right? And
Right.
and they say that a lot of the stuff, the aero, some of the aero trickery, the downforce, I mean, it has crazy downforce,
Yeah.
um, is all attributed to F1.
Packaging. Well, that and
Well,
packaging.
that packaging, but it's all
Right.
attributed to the F1 technology, right?
Right.
It's kind of trickle down effect. Um, but I mean, you're talking about a car that is, almost 1,300 horsepower.
Right.
It has a 0 to 60 in under 3, right? Which is not crazy compared to the cars that are already in its class.
Yeah.
However, it does what, over 100 and something. It's like 200 kilometers an hour in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Well, this car is one that's just not gonna stop pulling, and
No,
McLarens have been known for that, but this is gonna be on another level of crazy, just raw, just all the way.
no, and
Um,
something people don't talk about is the McLaren Speedtail is the
yeah,
fastest British car, 0 to, I think it was 120 or something like that.
right.
But it was the quickest British car ever built, right?
Yeah.
This is going to obliterate that thing.
It's even when you're the top dog right on the step, I feel like there's something coming in the future that's gonna outdo that.
I do,
And even
that's
like
one
it's
thing I
wild.
respect about Koenigsegg
Yeah.
is they don't wait for other people to outdo them. They're constantly outdoing themselves, right?
Yeah. Like their
So
number
like
one competitor is them.
when they did that 0 to 400 kilometers to 0
Yeah.
and they held the Guinness Book of World Records for it and they held it in the Regera, I believe it was the
Yeah.
Regera. They came back with the Yesco and said we can do better.
Right.
And I was like,
And
"Oh my, you didn't need to do that.
they didn't need to.
You didn't need to
You've
come that
already
hard." But
you've already got the record.
yeah,
Whose record are you trying to beat again? Oh,
mine.
yours. Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I
Um,
appreciate that.
yeah, and you get I respect Christian von Koenigsegg and everything he does is just another level, man.
Yep.
I mean, talking about crazy doors. I mean, just look at the Gamera.
Yeah, we saw the Gamera in person.
Wow,
And
dude.
the doors, well, first of all, the door on that is about as long as Jessica is tall, and that's
Yeah,
not an exaggeration.
but this thing's like,
Yeah. Yeah,
you
it's
know?
it for those of you who haven't seen it, it's like a 5.5 foot door.
Yeah, it's wild, man. And that car is just, I mean, it's just crazy. But let's stick to the subject. The Holy Trinity's coming back, baby.
Okay,
I
so
think it.
let's
You
talk
think
about
it.
that, right?
Let's
So
talk about it.
we've got the W1. So the W1 is the P1 replacement, right?
That's right.
We're hearing rumors and there's starting to be some spy stuff leaked about the Ferrari part of the Holy Trinity, right?
Yes.
All right. So the Ferrari part of the Holy Trinity will ditch the naturally aspirated V12 and
Yeah.
go to a 6-cylinder motor that is in their Le Mans car. That is the rumor. How do you feel about that?
You know how I feel about that.
Go ahead and tell me.
Look, man, here's the thing. They're getting away from the roots, man. They're getting away from the good stuff. Give us the V12 sounds. That's what we want. That's what the people want. I know it's heavier. I know it's less efficient. Nobody cares. Nobody cares, man. When that thing comes by, I want it to scream at the top of its lungs.
I agree.
V12 cylinders firing on all things, burning all dinosaurs. That's what I want. That's what I want.
So I got to go to a launch of another car today. I went to go see the Maserati GT car,
Yes.
right? The
Well,
MC20.
it's the MC20 GT.
Yep. Yes.
And it looks amazing.
Great. It's still got the V6 in it.
Right. But how's it sound?
Like the MC20.
Looks cool though.
Yeah, it looks great.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But to John's point, right? So you've got this, and I mean they just put that 12-cylinder motor in the 12 cylindre, right?
Yeah.
They just put that 12-cylinder motor in the Parasangue.
Yeah.
And now you're going to go, okay, well, we're going to take our Hypercar Holy Trinity replacement, and we're going to put a 6-cylinder, hybrid motor in it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I know that
here's
the Ferrari won't be my favorite at this point.
Well, so here's the thing.
Current
that leaves us with one car left in the Holy Trinity, right?
Yep.
And that car would be the Porsche.
Yep.
So Porsche came out with a prototype replacement for the 918 a while ago.
Yeah.
They haven't said whether or not they're going to put that car into production, but it is all electric.
Yeah.
So does that disqualify it from being a part of the Holy Trinity?
And it depends on what we're comparing and what's making it what it is. It's the top of the dog. It's the hypercar, so, electric's Porsche's game now. I mean, they're truly just discarding gas altogether.
So why isn't Rimac and Koenigsegg and Pagani in that discussion?
So, and that's the thing I was talking about to you the other day. It's like, yeah, right now we're thinking of the Holy Trinity just because it kind of goes back to the who started it, right?
Right.
That's the three cars that really started the Holy Trinity, the whole, this is the craziest hypercar that money can buy. And now we're at a point where other brands.
Koenigsegg was around when those came out.
Yes, but
so was Pagani.
Correct, but Koenigsegg was late to the party with the 101. So I think that, and that's kind of what the hypercar thing was. It was like the first three really were and I could be wrong on dates, but I think the first three really were the Porsche, the Ferrari, and the
because the CCX was around way before those, right? Because it was on the leaderboard on Top Gear long before those cars came out.
At the time, though, it was considered a supercar, not a hypercar, though. And these were the first with the hybrid technology.
Again, I think it redefined it because of the hybrid technology. I think that's where the hypercar definition comes into play, right?
Okay.
So if you're saying that a hypercar is hybrid technology, Porsche's out.
And you're not wrong. But it all just, that's the other thing though. Now at this point, there's so many manufacturers that make hypercars. It's not just hybrid technology anymore. I mean, it's really not just that. And that's the thing. It's like the supercar. Yes. As time goes on, the supercar just changed in so many different ways that it's hard to define where do you draw that line? You know what I mean? Where do you say, okay, this is that and this is that?
Think about it. You've got Bugatti, right?
Yeah.
You've got Koenigsegg, Pagani,
yeah,
and then you've got, and those are the and Bugatti. So Bugatti's in there too, right? And I would say those are the elites, right?
Yeah.
Then you have McLaren, Ferrari, and Porsche, which I would say are more established brands. I guess that's a weird way to put that.
Okay.
But then you've got like the SSE Artura.
Yeah, you got the one-offs. Like
you've got,
they're building.
I mean, look at what Aston Martin is doing. You've got the Valhalla, which is about to come out.
The
and
Valkyrie.
you've got the Valkyrie. So the
Yeah.
question is, does the Valhalla take the place of the Porsche? Do we now consider that the Holy Trinity?
But
The
you know what I
Aston,
mean. But
the Ferrari, and the Lamborghini,
yeah.
and
But at
the
this point, we're at the holy
McLaren.
quadruplet. I mean, it doesn't make sense. You really got to just narrow it down to the 3 cars that started it are going to be the 3 cars that replace it, and not look at what all the details are like that.
Yeah,
Because
but
if you do,
I
then
can't
yeah.
put Porsche in that same conversation. I can't do it. I can't
Okay.
do it
Fair.
because you're talking about a car that shares 0 of the original Holy Trinity DNA,
But okay. Well,
except
we
for
can
the
go
name
back and
badge.
forth. We can go back and forth. Tell us below what you think. Should Porsche be allowed into the Holy Trinity, or should they be replaced with something crazier and cooler? You tell us. You
Yes.
know, I don't know. Let us know.
Yes.
I mean, and it's tough. We could go back and forth about this all night. And so I think the best thing for this is for us to say, okay, you let us know.
Yeah. No,
But
I'm good with that because
yeah,
to be honest with you, I think that the definition of the hypercar in general is kind of weird,
yeah,
right? It's one of those things where what defines a hypercar,
yeah. I
right?
mean, okay. Do you
Because
consider a Rimac a hypercar?
I don't know.
Well, what is it if it's not a hypercar?
I don't know
I would
because
say it's a hypercar.
but it's hard to. Is it a hypercar because of how expensive it is, or is it a
No, it's a
hypercar because of
hypercar
how
because of the
fast it
raw
goes?
performance that it has, and also it's in a price range that is unobtainium to some.
But see,
So yeah,
that's kind of the question, right? So if you come out with a car today that's $500,000 and it can just walk a Rimac, right, and gap a Rimac
okay,
on the road, which is probably impossible, but you know what I mean.
okay.
If you come out with a car today, it's $500,000. Is it considered a hypercar or is it a
Well, I mean,
supercar?
well, let's talk about just some of the numbers. You said it's got how many horsepower? Was it 1,200 horsepower?
1275, yeah.
Okay, so let's say Corvette comes out with the Zora and it's in the same power level, same everything.
That's what I'm
You consider
saying.
that a
That's what
hypercar?
I'm saying. It's
So
Corvette's definitely not a hypercar.
see, you're a hater. Maybe it is.
No, I will give Corvette the supercar
Supercar.
status.
Okay, so in years ago though, the supercar was big engine, big V12, whatever. It had to be had to be rare, exclusive.
I mean, so rare and exclusive,
Play a big
I
part.
would say is definitely one of the things I think about when I think about a supercar, right?
Correct.
And that's why, when we talk about there's an episode of Top Gear when Matt LeBlanc took over, and they were racing supercars, and he
Okay.
brought a Lamborghini Huracan,
Okay.
and they brought a 911.
Okay.
And he goes, no, this is a supercar challenge. And he's like, it's a supercar. He's no, it's a supercar, but it's not a supercar. And I was like, no, I agree with that. It is a supercar, but I don't see Porsche 911s as a supercar. And
Right.
I don't. It's nothing against the car because it's absolutely amazing.
Right.
It's cool to drive. It's a driver's car for sure, right? But I don't see that as a supercar, and I think a lot of it is because of, to your point, exclusivity and kind of rareness, right?
Right.
You
Yeah.
see 100 911s, and you and I can't. Well, you and I can tell the difference between most of them,
Of
but
course.
I don't know the difference between a 991.2 or 992.1 or 3 or whatever it is this
Look,
week.
man, I sell performance parts for those cars, and I'm telling you, man, I get wrapped up on it too. Somebody will call me like, I got a 991.2, and I'm like, give me a second. 911, yes. Year though. Oof.
To be honest
Year.
with you,
Yeah.
they could drop off a 911.1237 whatever in my driveway, and I would be ecstatic.
Happy. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Absolutely.
would be. I would drive that thing all day long. So I
Yeah.
really don't care what dot it is, or what version it is. But no, but that's the thing is, they made the joke on Top Gear that it wasn't a super car because it was not rare, exclusive, that sort of thing. And I get that, but the argument can be made that every YouTuber and Instagram person and TikToker has a Lamborghini Huracan. So how
Yeah.
rare are they nowadays? Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, all right, guys. So let us know below. What is it? Is it a hypercar? Is it going to be the Holy Trinity? Are we just moving on to another level? Are these ultra cars or ultra super duper cars, super duper whooper duper cars? I don't know. You tell me.
So
I don't know.
that's a great
So,
way to end this video.
yeah.
Two things. One, tell us in the comments below, what is your definition of a hypercar or a supercar?
Yeah.
And then for anybody who's more creative than John and I are,
Right.
what do you think is going to be the next category? Because we're
Yeah.
going to have one,
Yeah.
right? Everybody thought supercar was the pinnacle, and then you start building these cars out of rare materials, and they started doing 250 270 miles an hour, and supercar didn't really fit the bill anymore, and it became about the hypercar. And
Right.
so now we're in the hypercar status. What comes next when we
Yeah.
start seeing these cars that are low twos, 2.1, sub 2 seconds 0 to 60s, that are cracking the 300-mile-an-hour mark? Are they ultra cars? Is that what we're calling them? Right. So tell
Super
us in the
ultra
comments
cars?
below.
Yeah. Let us know, guys. On that note, I think we wrap it up.
Yep.
It's been
So for
great
those
hanging
of
out.
you who've been here this long, thank you. We appreciate it.
Appreciate
For
you
those
guys.
of you who are new to the channel, please subscribe. Please hit the like button and share it with your friends. And for me, I'm out. Thanks, guys.
We're out, guys. Peace.